6:05 p.m. and our invocation, we gonna bow in the memories of our civil rights leaders that is no longer on this earth with us. I can call some names, but I might miss, but we know John Robert Lewis and Bernard Jordan, Reverend Vivian, and many, many more. So we go bow for a couple of minutes in memory of a civil rights leaders that is no longer with us on this earth. Amen. Amen. Somebody is calling me. Excuse me, it might be Tamara.
Not her phone number.
Hello? Our agenda is greetings from our Vice President, Tamara Nama, but I just want to thank everyone for coming on to be with us on our membership and public meeting tonight. I thank all of you for taking out. I know everybody got a busy schedule, so I just greet you and thank you for coming out to be and participate on our meeting tonight. And as you see on your agenda, you see I have remarks, 2 minutes from our education chair, our healthcare, environment, climate justice, our youth, and our membership. And what I really want to do, we really gonna be dealing with. We dealing with our 2021 legislative priorities. For every year in March, we used to go to Albany before we got this pandemic, COVID-19. So this year we met with our representatives, but we did it on Zoom. We met with our assembly person in District 101, Brian Miller. We met with him on March the 24th, and we met with our New York State Senate, Mark Martus, on April the 8th, and we went to his office and we presented our agenda to them. We had good conversations with our agenda. So this 3 minutes is about our education chair, Gammy Singleton, will talk. I thought I said 3 minutes, but it's 2 minutes. We'll bring us some of the things that we talked about with both of them, if you want to just join it together.
Okay. Maud always wants to rename me or whatever. I guess I'm gonna have to change my name. Anyway.
What did I say? I didn't say
Singleton. She always called me Singleton. I don't know why. Anyway, forget that. We in our meetings with both representative and senator, I brought up 3 issues of the state NAACP. I don't know if you can see it, has their own priorities, and within those priorities I brought up 3 that were more preeminent or pertinent to Ellenville. But of course, we gave them the list to support all of these. The first was we supported the legislation to have licensed or certified social workers in all schools. And I talked about the importance of what was happening now with COVID, and when our students return in full force, and we need money and we need the help of social workers and additional staff. And fortunately, hallelujah, that our wish list came through. We got 9 million extra dollars, close to 9 million, with our new budget. And so we're very grateful for that. And we did get our social worker. She's included in the budget. So that was a positive. And then we also supported the Judith K. School Solutions, not suspensions. Some schools in New York State have suspended students for as long as 6 months. Our school is not as bad, but we still can do better. And but we need the help of social workers and other support staff, so our students don't miss out on school, that we have restorative justice and alternative ways of dealing with students. Okay, and the last one was everybody, including the Hazel Dukes, want to support Ramapo schools in their continuing fight. They're calling it Jim Crow schools now. 95% of the public schools are Black or brown students. The other very small minority of charter schools, their people control the school board. All the money is funded toward those charter schools, and the public schools are left in the ditch. And a lot of hanky panky and a lot of things are going on. And they elected, or they had appointed a manager because it was in such a mess. But they gave the manager no power. That's the sum total of that. But anyway, we put that to our representatives to support. So that's the main things that we addressed. And both the senator and the representative, they were both open to all of these proposals, or at least most of the proposals on the list. And I think Martucci's wife is a school teacher, so he's behind education. So that's the education report. And thank God we have money coming to our school district.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Gammon. Thank you. We will hear from, now our health chair, Sarah or Harriet, wasn't able to be at these meetings, but they
Sarah's
do have
here.
a report. Were you there, Sarah?
Yeah,
Sarah
there
was
she is.
at Brian Miller's meeting. Yes, okay.
No, I wasn't I'm at this meeting, but I wasn't at the meeting with Brian Miller, no.
Okay, so you all can give a report on, what did, you have a report to give, Sarah? And I had told Harriet to talk about what's coming up for April the 30th.
Yeah, that's our report, really, is the event
Okay.
that we're putting together. So yeah, maybe Harriet and Ed and I have been working on that. And Harriet, you want to tell us what we have so far for the 30th?
Sure. Well, Ed and Sarah have gotten a lot further than I have. Sarah, what we're planning is a panel of people talking about health in the community. Sarah has already interviewed one person, and Ed has been wonderful. He recorded the interview. Our goal is to have 3 different people. The problem is that the 2 people that who had committed to it are no longer able to. I had asked someone from the hospital. She was very eager to do it, and then somehow the administration of the hospital is not allowing it. So I'm looking for other people. Then we had a teacher from the school, Maud, she was not able to because of health issues. So Maud said maybe there's another teacher from the school that we can interview.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I'm very excited. We're going to put it together. And then Ed, maybe you could talk about how this is going to be shared with the community.
The easiest way to take the multiple interviews and and kind of broadcast them out there is putting them in a playlist on YouTube, which it's just a single link that you can then share and publicize and post, and the link will bring people to the interviews will play in a series through that playlist. So I had a great conversation with I think is now I don't recall the name, but from WELV radio TV in Ellenville, and we spoke for a long time, and now I feel like I have a full understanding of all the possibilities in terms of getting things out through those outlets. But also we're going to be just really sharing it in every way that we can, and encouraging others to pass it along.
Okay. Harriet Billy, who is the nurse up in the high school, she's the one that said she was having health issues, and
Yeah.
she didn't know if she was going to be able to do the panel discussion. So we're reaching out to the middle school, because the middle school have a nurse, and the elementary school have a nurse. So we're reaching out to them and see if one of them will be able to speak. And once I get a response, I'll let you know.
Thank you. The issue, one of the issues with Billy was that she needed permission from the school, you know, to represent as the school nurse. And so, you know, in the meantime, I was waiting for her to ask. So if the elementary or middle school teacher agrees, we still have to get permission from the school.
Well, that's the superintendent. As long as the principals agree that they can do it, it's gonna be okay.
Okay, great.
That
So
would be. Go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I'm just anxious to hear that we can go ahead and interview the next person. In the meantime, I'm gonna reach out, maybe even, we were so happy. Maud came to class today. I'm a nurse educator. Maud came to our class today, and I was thinking of asking one of my nursing students to speak about a health topic. You know, if we can't get a third person.
Okay, that'll be good. That'll be
Okay,
good. Okay,
good.
thank you. Now, Tamara is gonna bring us some information of some of the questions that we proposed to our representatives, Brian and Matus. Tamara will give us some update on that. Tamara, you gotta unmute.
Unmute.
You gotta unmute.
The little microphone with the X through it.
You gotta
Click it.
unmute. Tell again, because we don't hear.
Can you hear me? The microphone, you'll see it at the bottom of your screen. Click it.
You gotta unmute.
Click the bottom of your screen. Ah,
Okay. Hey, can you hear me now?
yes, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, we met with our state senator Matusi, and we met with our representative, who's his name is Miller Bryan, and I'll start with Matus. We spoke to him about Medicare for all, and he didn't support it. He thought it was too expensive. And he would say, oh, he's written down. He thought it was too expensive to have what they call national Medicare. Let me just read from here. On the topic of Medicare for all, Senator Makusi felt that it carried too high a price tag and feels that there would be more dissension from unions that currently enjoy healthcare benefits. we told him that we felt that health care for everybody was right. We also mentioned the budget for sickle cell, and he said that $250,000 was allocated for funding, and reminded him that the NAACP advocates for $5 million, for a $5 million investment. We asked the senators to support a moratorium on hospital closing. You know that St. Luke's Hospital is closing. We also spoke to him about this moving the mental health facility from St. Benedictine. We didn't get a feedback from him on it. Now, speaking about our assemblyman from Brian Miller, we spoke to him also about the high mortality rate for Black and brown women, especially Black women. We didn't get too much of a feedback on it. Healthcare was a right and not a privilege, and universal health, it just was right. And we Medicaid for all carries a high price, but it supports, but he did support universal health care. Equity was an issue. Ed Felton reminded us that healthcare and education were the barometers towards thinking and society. And it is, it builds us. We stated that we need an increase in sickle cell funding. And we also spoke to him about hospital closing. We didn't get too much feedback on that. And that's basically what we covered with the two representatives.
Okay, thank you. And they both want to meet with us again during the summer.
Right.
So we will be meeting with them again, and we will be presenting the same issues, other issues, the same issues, because this is our NAACP game changers, the ones that we presented to them. So we will be meeting with them, and we received a letter from our senator, and he want to come to Ellenville the next time to meet with us. So I hope we can have a full house of our chairperson that can meet with him. Okay, Gavin?
Yeah, a lot of the things that they sidestepped,
Yes,
and they said they'd look into it.
right.
We're going to call them on it
That's
with
right.
our next meeting with
Yes,
them.
we're gonna call a
That's
hand on
right.
it.
Yes. Okay, now we'll hear from our civic engagement person, Ann Sullivan.
Hi.
Hi, Ann.
So with Senator Martucci, he was in support of more funding for poll workers and the Board of Elections commissioners. We're pretty much in agreement on that one. And he talked about it, it was actually in the budget increased funding for training. However, we also talked to him about supporting parole, folks who are on parole being able to have full voting rights. They kind of do right now under Cuomo's executive order, but it's a pain. It kind of has to go, the list goes from DOCCS to the governor, then the governor has to approve it, and then it has to get down to folks who are on parole, and people just don't know about it. So turning it into a law would make a whole lot of sense. It would streamline it, and it would be much less expensive. He wasn't convinced, but he said he would look into it. Those were the two big things that we actually talked to him about. Though we also talked to him about the voting rights legislation that would replace what we lost at the federal level. And then with Brian Miller, we basically talked to him about the attack on voting rights around the country. And Madeline is the one who really asked him about that. And he said that he was appalled at the attack on voting rights. Madeline, do you want to jump in on any of that?
Madeline is not on.
Oh, okay, sorry,
She
apologies.
had an important meeting at her church today
Got it.
at the same time. But, okay. That's it, Ann?
That's it.
Okay, do we have, William, you want to do a few things on environmental or climate justice? Is William still here?
Yeah.
William?
Do you have your gallery view on, Maud?
No, I don't. Yeah, I got it on, but he just come back up.
Yeah, I walked out for a minute. My
Okay.
Zoom freeze and walked out. So yeah.
We
I'm
can't
back.
hear you.
You can't hear me? What about now?
We can hear
Still
you.
can't hear?
It's just you're soft.
Oh, my voice is too low? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to speak up.
Hey, before we go
Oh.
on, can I just revise one thing? I'm so sorry.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, with Brian Miller, I'm sorry, we didn't talk to him about voting rights across the whole country. It was more about what happened in Washington, DC.
That's right,
on January
yes.
6th. So apologies for that. It was really about January 6th that he was dismayed at what he saw. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, William.
Now the sound is sounding bad now. Can you still hear me?
Barely, I do. I barely hear you.
Oh God, this thing is
Okay,
acting
it's
Now
better. It's better.
It's better?
Yeah, yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I attended the Brian Miller meeting on March 24th. He does support the formerly incarcerated serving on juries, and he does support the Fair and Timely Parole Act. He said he will do some research to see why parole officers are so against it. And he agreed that diversity is needed amongst the chief officers. And the elderly prisoners released, according to Miller, is a debatable issue. And we did have a couple of minutes conversation about that. He says it needs further debate, I guess, and I can see why, because of the family issue. But as a matter of fact, Matusi has the same mind, so that might have a little problem in Albany because I guess of the family issue, and the holding juveniles in juvenile facilities rather than adult facilities. I'm not sure, was he supporting that or not? Did anybody remember? I'm not sure. It doesn't say what he didn't. I can't remember. But anyway, that's
he
basically what
probably
we
said,
talked
I'll
about.
look
I'll
into
listen.
it.
I think that's
You
what he
look into
said.
it? Oh,
He'll look into it.
okay. That's the pat answer. There you go.
Mhm.
Uh, we have a long list of priorities for each of these game changers, but when they give us an hour, we gotta pick and choose and stuff like that. So hopefully we can get more out to them. And also April 8th, we attended the meeting with Senator Matusi, and we have discussed the value of having previously incarcerated serving on juries. I think he's for that. We had a difference of opinion also, like I mentioned, about the oh no, he had a difference of opinion over the justice of bail reform, and reminded him that a few high profile cases were used to try to derail the reform. So we remind the senator that poverty is not a crime. And like I mentioned about the elderly release of the elderly prisoners. like I said, he's hedging on that one. And we also talked a little bit too about the recent legalization of cannabis, and but urged his support. Let me see, was it? Yeah, we urged his support for bill number S854 and A1248 to ensure that benefits to go to communities that have been disproportionately harmed. Hopefully that will happen. Not like when OTB opened up and said the money was supposed to go to schools. So hopefully we'll get it right this time. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, William. You know that Reverend Greenaway is on the criminal justice, is chair, one of the chairs for criminal justice too. But she is presenting tonight, so we will hear from her when she present. Now we're gonna hear from our youth. Is Deborah Shorter on? Nicholas, one of you all can, is Deborah on? I know Deborah told me she was
I
gonna
don't think
be on,
Deborah's here now.
but she was gonna be on the phone. She wasn't coming on Zoom. Is you here, Deborah? Is you on? Okay, go ahead, Nicholas.
Okay, so can you hear me okay? Am I unmuted? Yeah, I think so. So can you hear me? All right,
Yes, yes.
everybody? Good. So I'm Nicholas Jenna. Deborah's my co-chairperson of the youth committee, which Maud gave me 2 minutes to describe to you. Maybe because she thinks I ramble too much. That's why she gave me that 2-minute limit. I wrote some notes to myself so we can hit all the top points here. So Deborah and I have been working on reactivating, resurrecting, recreating this youth commission, which really we found hasn't existed here for a number of years, and really doesn't exist in many of the Hudson Valley branches, with the exception of maybe 2. And one of the ones that we found was really for older youth. We're hoping to target 13 to 19-year-olds in our community. And we've been researching as much as we can by calling around and reading this thick blue constitution that we have here, which makes my eyes tear when I try to read more than 2 pages. But we've got kind of the bones of what we'd like to do down, but it's a work in progress. So we've kind of imagined a mission for this youth committee that would, allow the kids to get together, network, give them social opportunities, empower them, maybe a little bit civics education, discussing current issues. I'm sure if it were up and running, we'd be talking about the outcome of today's trial and everything else. So basically just to give them a forum to participate with each other and some of the meaningful causes, learn some leadership skills. As you may know, the youth committee is almost a parallel to the adult NAACP. They've got their own officers and secretary and establish their own rules. So though Deborah and I are kind of like planning general layout, the mission of what they're going to accomplish in this committee, we're going to stop short of actually designing it. We'd like to offer them some opportunities, some speakers, some stimulation, and then let them try to capture their own inertia and create their own program and their programming goals and guidelines. Again, under the auspices of the NAACP. We'll hopefully be calling on the general NAACP to help them in any way that we can. So, like I say, we've been trying to put this all together. We've talked to some of the schools and we have meetings with the other organizations, which we are just managing to get up and running because of COVID restrictions. I would also like to, before I shut up, I'd like to shamelessly recruit anybody who wants to volunteer to join Deborah and I. It's a fairly large task to get this moving. I know Madeline put out a little blurb to the general membership looking for anyone who wants to volunteer to be on the committee with us. It's just the two of us, and it's a large and exciting and meaningful undertaking, and I think it would be fun and satisfying for any of you who want to join us. And so what I'll do is I'll post that blurb that I had written for Madeline on this screen here, if I can do it, under chat. And anybody who wants to participate, please give us an email or a call or anything you want to do would be of help. All right, that's it. My 2 minutes
Okay,
up.
thank you, Nicholas. Thank you. Thank everyone for giving their report. That's what the NAACP is all about. When we our executive board committee meet, when we have our membership and public meeting, our chairperson are supposed to report to the total membership of what's going on, what they are going to be involved in. So thank all of you for giving your report to us tonight. So now we are at the good part. We're coming up for our topic for tonight: equality and criminal justice in the United States. And if you got your agenda, you see that the Reverend Valerie Paul Green, chair of the NAACP Criminal Justice Committee, will be presenting to us tonight. And Reverend Green is always willing, Reverend Greenaway is always willing to do whatever she can do for this branch. And I haven't been knowing her that long. I met her when Jen Mester was our New York State Senator, and I met her and her sister. And it was a good getting along. And I've been in touch with Reverend Greenaway since then, and she decided she wanted to work with the Ellenville NAACP, and we welcome her, and we're glad that she wanted to come on to work with us. So at this time, if you see on there, Reverend Greenaway is the pastor. This is the only information she gave us, but it's good information. She's the pastor at the Federated Church of Cohasson and at the Cripple Bush United Methodist Church in Stone Ridge, New York. And this is good introduction to have a pastor on our board, because the NAACP been standing for 112 years. We just celebrated the anniversary of February the 12th. And we stand in this long because we had good people as our leaders. And one thing I always say, The reason been standing so long, we believe in the political arena, but the NAACP is a nonpartisan organization, and we don't endorse candidates. We don't endorse the Republican Party. We don't endorse the Democrat Party. We don't endorse the Green Party, whatever party. But I always say, this is why we've been standing so long. We've been standing so long. But when we have our Meet the Candidate night, we invite both parties. We invite all parties, because we're a nonpartisan organization, but we are very much involved in the political arena. So at this time, I present to you our presenter, Reverend Valerie Paul Greenway. Amen.
Thank you so much, President Bruce. It is an honor, beyond honored, to work with all of you in this great organization that has really laid the foundation and tread in places over the years for our people. I put together a PowerPoint, and it's probably going to seem like preaching to the choir. I've recently completed a course with Dean Truler, who is professor at Howard University over this winter break. I'm just finishing up seminary, and he shared a lot of great information. And so this topic is something that I'm very, very passionate about. I'd like to acknowledge my co-chair, William Doster, who he and I are just beginning to work together, and we've set our meetings consistently. So if anyone would like to join our committee, we're meeting, I think it is the last Tuesday of the month. Actually, I will get my calendar and tell you the exact date before I finish, but we invite you to join us. We're going to be meeting monthly, the Criminal Justice and Environmental Justice Committee. So I'm going to share this PowerPoint, and we all know that United States is the home of the world's largest prison population, and its tough on crime laws have put a lot of people, nonviolent offenders, behind bars in recent years. Our organization does a great job with these statistics on our national website, in which I did draw a lot of my information from there. So let me just open this screen up, and hopefully everyone can see it. Right. I have also here with me tonight, I'm really happy that the Harmony Conference, which is a group of laity and clergy with the United Methodist Church, and we are tackling, or we are dialoguing around difficult, around injustices in this country. And we're bringing this information to our churches. We have over 430, 50 churches across New York, Connecticut. And a lot of people are very unaware of what is and what is existing. And so bringing this information, bringing information and dialoguing with people of all different backgrounds, we have been charged to do so. Incarceration has increased 943% in the last 50 years. Hold on, let's see here. How do I? Okay, United States prison population, it has increased over the last century. 1970, there were about 300,000 people incarcerated, and today there are over 2.3 million, and that is 1 out of every 15 persons and 1 out of 3 Black men. I hate to read it to you, but I'm a little bit nervous, Maud, so.
I understand.
Incarcerated people have become a human money-making machine here in the United States. And this phenomenon is compared or referred to as the new Jim Crow. I'm looking for, my notes are here, so I can't exactly Oh yeah, I'm gonna share this. Oh, wait a minute, go back. Share this with you. Go back. Oh no, wrong way. Sorry. There we go. Okay. Hopefully this goes over smooth. So in the course that I took with Reverend Truly, this is one of the footages that he shared. I wanted to share this with you all. A little bit of the history.
In 1619, when the first Africans were brought to the British colonies by ship to Jamestown, Virginia, they held the legal status of servant. But as the region's economic system became increasingly dependent on forced labor, we descended into slavery. The institution of American slavery developed as a permanent, hereditary system centrally tied to race. Millions of Black people were forcibly taken from Africa, crammed on ships, and brought to the Americas through a dangerous and deadly journey that crossed the Atlantic. Millions died. Once on our shores, slavery deprived the enslaved person of any legal rights or autonomy, and granted the slave owner complete power over the Black men, women, and children legally recognized as property. An ideology of white supremacy, a narrative of racial difference was created to rationalize and justify the continuation of slavery. American slavery was often brutal, barbaric, and violent. In addition to the hardship of forced labor, enslaved people were maimed or killed by slave owners as punishment for working too slowly, visiting a spouse living on another plantation, or even learning to read. Enslaved people were also sexually exploited. The United States Congress finally banned the importation of slaves from Africa in 1808. Slavery was widely considered a gross human rights violation, yet enslavement was retained and persisted. The 1808 Declaration caused the demand for slave labor to skyrocket in the Lower South, and the domestic slave trade grew to meet this demand. Between 1808 and 1860, the enslaved population of Alabama grew from less than 40,000 to more than 435,000. Slave traders chained African Americans together in couples and forced them to march hundreds of miles from the Upper South to the Lower South. Steamboats carried slaves along the Alabama River. Rail routes constructed with slave labor brought hundreds of enslaved people to Montgomery, Alabama every day, turning the city into one of the largest slave trading communities in the United States. Enslaved people would be paraded up Commerce Street to slave warehouses and slave depots. The city's slave market was at the Artesian Basin, now known as Court Square. Enslaved people of all ages were auctioned along with livestock, standing in line to be inspected. Public posters advertising the sale of slaves included gender, age, skill, complexion, owner's name, and price. Slavery in America traumatized and devastated millions of people. Husbands and wives, parents and children could not protect themselves from being sold away from each other. Enslaved families were separated at an owner's or auctioneer's whim, never to see each other again. The domestic slave trade separated nearly half of all enslaved people from their spouses and parents. In 1833, the Alabama legislature banned free Black people from residing in the state, meaning that enslavement was the only legally authorized status for African Americans. Even as the Civil War raged, slave trading in Montgomery flourished well into the mid-1860s. After the Confederacy's surrender in 1865, Congress passed the 13th Amendment, which prohibited slavery nationwide, except as a punishment for crime. But in many former slave states, slavery did not end, it simply evolved. Southern whites, angry after losing the war, targeted Black people who were largely abandoned by the federal government in the 1870s. For decades, Black men, women, and children were tortured, terrorized, and killed by mobs and violent lynchings, oppressed by a system of racist laws and customs. For another 100 years, Black people were racially segregated, denied the right to vote, education, and basic dignity. They were humiliated, beaten, or killed for minor offenses or for protesting. The civil rights movements of the 1950s and 60s helped to end legally authorized racial segregation, but racial bias still persists. Today, a presumption of guilt is assigned to many people of color who are disproportionately arrested, convicted of crimes, and sent to prison. African Americans are 6 times more likely to be sentenced to prison for the same crime as a white person. 1 in 3 Black males born today can expect to spend time in prison during his lifetime. Police violence against Black people is so epidemic that civil rights demonstrations have shut down cities across the US as thousands of people march to protest police brutality. Many states celebrate the era of slavery with Confederate holidays and by honoring the defenders and architects of slavery while ignoring the history of enslavement. The Equal Justice Initiative believes that racial bias remains a serious problem and is a direct and lasting legacy of American slavery and our failure to deal with the history of racial injustice. The Equal Justice Initiative seeks to foster an honest conversation about the legacy of slavery, about mass incarceration, and racial inequality and how it still affects millions of people today. We can confront and overcome bias and discrimination. Please join us in this conversation so that we can move forward together.
So I almost had Bryan Stevenson here tonight, but it's okay. He has done a lot of work, and he is a person that was incarcerated himself and continued to fight and was able to get himself free. So most of you know that modern day police mentality can be traced back to slave patrol. And so historically, policing and incarceration was put in place as a follow-up of slavery. And so the Black and brown people have been criminalized just for being Black and brown and have been incarcerated at a very high rate over our white brothers and sisters. And a lot of it is because, well, I tend to think of this as a money situation. I'm trying to figure out how to change the screen, you know, and when I say money, over $265 billion are made on a federal, state, and local corrections and police off of incarcerated people. And let's see how to get out of here. Just so I know I'm going next. Okay, there we go. One of the things, and so the topic was where we've been, where we are, and where we need to go. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up, and because it's something I'm very passionate about, is this notion that people have to choose. People have to choose. Black Lives Matter was born out of people crying out for a change when it comes to police brutality and the criminal justice system. And, you know, I have to say that I feel President Bruce so honored and so blessed that I'm here in the presence of you all. And today we have a guilty verdict in regards to the George Floyd trial. I learned that like right before, like 10 minutes before we came on. But there is this thing that people don't understand. 78% of American voters relate more to all lives matter than they do Black Lives Matter. And they don't understand that Black Lives Matter has been, I don't know if they don't willfully or what their reasons for not being able to understand. I tend to think people can't relate unless it's happening to them. For instance, you know, when we talk about a disapportionment of minorities that are incarcerated, when you're talking to, I have found in my experience that most people who are correction officers or police officers, they don't really want to talk about that topic because when you think about it, that affects their pockets. So that's why I say it's a money it's a money situation. I had the opportunity to work in Goshen Secure Facility for 6 months. And one of the things that I will say when it comes to incarceration is that, you know, people that are incarcerated, I mean, the trauma of most people that are incarcerated have had a history of trauma. And then when they go into these jail facilities, they become more traumatized. And I can say that with as a fact, because as a staff person going into this facility, I myself experienced trauma. I mean, it was an experience to have to be able to go into a building and, you know, go through the machine and go through locked doors behind another locked doors, and your safety and your well-being. And a lot of the conditions that I say that the conditions that our incarcerated people are living in is inhumane. I'm sorry, I'm just off the cuff. People treat their animals in better, you know, with better conditions. And that's something I'm very passionate about, because I just think the amount of money that it costs in New York State to house or to care for someone who's incarcerated is $167,731. And, you know, along with that comes like the social workers, the therapists, and the doctors and the nurses. And in my opinion, we could really provide as a community some really nice housing for that kind of money for someone who has committed a crime. One of the things that I'm really also passionate about is that, you know, maybe I'm moving too fast. I'll wait till I get to that point. I feel like I'm preaching just a little bit. But when we talk about justice should be healing. Justice should be, okay, you committed a crime, so now you have to pay for the crime that you committed, and it should not be re-traumatizing people. And, you know, statistics will show that most people that are incarcerated, the reason why they're still incarcerated is because they don't have the money to get out. And they're in there for non-violent offenses. And yet, you know, I was following a young man on my Instagram. He was an autistic child or young adult who got into somewhat of a car accident, and someone got hurt in a car accident, and they put him in jail for it and would not even consider his I don't like to say disability, I want to say different abilities. And his mother had to fight and petition the governor to get him out. But back to this slide, when the narratives of Black Lives Matter was born out of people responding to a structural and systemic racism that was intentionally put in place to continue to affect Black and brown people voting, Black and brown people economics. So this whole notion of, you know, some people get really upset when you say Black Lives Matter, and it's like, why are you upset? Historically, Black lives has not mattered. And I will say also that, you know, when we see a police officer killing Black and brown people on national TV, I equate that to a modern day lynching, because that's what it is. People would come to the square, stand around. I've looked at some of the pictures and I'm appalled. They come in their Sunday best and have their children with them and watch a lynching. And for us to be able to, as human beings, humanity made in the sacred image of God, to stand and watch someone be brutally murdered and someone not be held accountable is not showing a healthy environment. And here we are, supposed to be one of the richest countries in the world. We house more people in jails than any other country in the world. There are, I think it's Sweden, who has a criminal justice system that is supposed to be like best practice. So when we talk about justice, I want to say that justice should be a justice that heals. And as believers made in the image of God, and understanding that Jesus himself was incarcerated and killed while in Roman custody, a restorative justice approach and a more holistic and humane way of administering healing to the offender must be considered and implemented when responding to those who cause harm. And the reason why I bring Christianity into this, because that is an intentional thing that I do, because this country, even though it's not a Christian nation, I want to say that over 75%, the numbers are declining, are people who identify as Christians. And I, as a person, a clergy who serves in a cross-cultural appointment, and very blessed to be able to do that, it's important that we realize, most of you heard of Jesus. Jesus was he himself in custody, and so I bring that up to kind of to be able to present some sort of proximity so that people can relate to persons that have been incarcerated and really understand. I think it's also interesting to note, that's the preacher in me also, that when Cain killed Abel, God didn't just, the response wasn't, go and be locked up, and he wasn't treated inhumane. He was protected. He was a restorative approach to his sin. And so the violence that we see in humanity and the racial injustice that has plagued this nation for years, I am really, really proud to be here with you all as members of the NAACP doing this work, because we are standing and speaking and working to cease that, based on race, based on poverty. People are treated in such inhumane ways and criminalized. And I think it's really, really important. Some people will say, well, you commit a crime, you should do the time. But we have implicit biases, and we have different things that the media and even our society has really implanted in us to look at people and to respond to people based on what they look like. And so where we need to go, I want to talk a little bit about the death penalty and the numbers around that. And that's one of our game changers. The game changers is to abolish at the state and federal level the death penalty, and also in the military. And I just wanted to share some numbers of how Black and Brown people are targeted when it comes to the death penalty. Maybe the word's not targeted, but are, I want to say victimized, because I believe we are survivors here in this land. But Black people on death row were as of 2000 in Maryland, 72%, in Pennsylvania, 63%, Alabama, 46%, and Illinois, 63%. And I could go on and so forth, but it's important. We all know that I think we're 13% of the population. So these numbers are really concerning. And this is just a proverb that I pulled out. The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no such concern. I am, and these are just some of the resources that I pulled out. But I am convinced that there are good people in the world that are who like the Ellenville Branch are out here doing this work to end and to change this system that we have all inherited. The disapportionment of incarceration, racially motivated policing strategies, and racially biased, discriminatory, and mandatory minimum sentences. I'm convinced that it will end, but it does require us to do the work. It does require us to inform and to advocate and to educate people. The incarceration, one of our game changers is that incarceration will greatly reduce, will be greatly reduced, and communities will be safer. And also the death penalty, we're looking to abolish it. So one of the things that we do with Harmony Conference with the other group of clergy that's on, 3 of them of which are my siblings, and Sharon, who is an author, best-selling author, I must say. One of the things that we do is we like to, we bring this dialogue and information to people so that they can really understand that, you know, racism and mass incarceration and how it was born out of, you know, Jim Crow and slavery, and how it's still affecting us. You know, some people would like to believe that, oh no, race, it's not happening anymore. Yes, it's happening. And, you know, as people, if just because it's not happening to us directly, if it's happening, you know, we have a responsibility. You know, I have children, and one of the things I want to do is to be able to leave the world a better place in the way that I found it. And I do believe that as a minister of the gospel, that we are not a powerless church. We, if we are the people of God, we ought to be able to speak to the mountain and have it move. And so collaborating with others and hearing and people's stories and sharing information and resources and coming together is important as we proclaim that that kingdom is coming. So that's what I have, President Maud.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Greenaway. Thank you. I see that we have our regional director, Wilbur Audrey, is on. Would you have something to say, Wilbur? Unmute.
May have stepped out.
Hi, no, I didn't step out. I've just, it was difficult unmuting. Maud, you know, I always have something to say. Thank you for that presentation, Reverend. That was very interesting. A lot of statistics and much of that information we have heard if we've gone to any of the state conferences, because we've had presentations on that as well. What I think we need to do is begin to put our efforts, as well as trying to prevent people from being incarcerated, we need to put our efforts in re-entry programs. That's where we fall real short, because that's under actually under our control. We can deal with establishing re-entry programs to aid people not to go back, because the recidivism is absolutely tremendous within this country, in this state as well. So that's where one of the things that we really should be looking at to ensure a successful parole and a successful re-entry back into life. So that's great. Thank you, Maud, again, but I think you've done, Ellenville always does a wonderful job. So I can't, they cover all the bases all of the time. So, and Maud alone cannot do that. So I'm sure that each of you play a part in that in some way, somehow. So that's all I'm going to say. I see it's all after 7 and you started at 6. So, you know, we try not to meet more than an hour. So I don't want to be the one to hold you over, but thank you. And I'll try and come on your meetings again. I'm sorry I was late, but I was at another meeting. All I do is Zoom all day long. If I could only move as fast as I'm Zooming, I'd be in great shape. Okay, well, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Wilbur. Thank you. Thank you. Do we have any other questions? We down to questions and answer. Do we have any questions or any comments? I see that the Raha moms are on. How are you all doing tonight? Glad to see you all. Do anybody have any questions? Okay, Ed, you got to unmute. Okay.
I want to thank Reverend Greenaway. That was really amazing. I mean, it's, you know, statistics by themselves don't really tell much without a perspective, and just the way that you kind of wove that together with where we've come from, where we are, where we need to go, and the you know, the people have studied prisons for decades, like sociologists and such, and there's this thing called the mortification process, which like prisoners are stripped of their identity when they enter prison, it's about as far from restorative justice as you could possibly imagine. So really, like, looking ahead and being in for the long haul, having reentry programs, they should be starting their reentry when they've been committed of the crime, not after they're held in suspended animation in this horrific. It really does go back to slavery and trying to sort of put people back in their place. That's what the culture of the prisons is. It's like they're trying to beat people down and put them back in their place. I mean, it's just I hope I work with younger people, like college age people. I can see the tolerance for sexism is going down, the tolerance for racism going down. And I think the more we kind of talk about all the different institutions involved, I hope we see like the tolerance for the kind of incarceration that exists in our society going down, that it just becomes unacceptable to more and more people.
Okay, Ed, thank you. Reverend Crystal, do you have anything you would like to say?
Well, I just really appreciate being able to be here and witness this phenomenal meeting and witness the work that you all are doing in all the different capacities. Before becoming a clergy, I worked in the school districts and in school leadership. So, those issues are so important, and you're covering it all. And Pastor Valerie, that was a powerful presentation, and I agree. I can only echo what Ed said, to continue to make people aware and educate. And I've seen the results of having those reentry programs in affecting communities. I've seen people pick their lives back up and thrive through those programs. So moving forward in that direction is powerful as well. So I'm just really happy to be here. And thank you for having us here.
And we're glad to have you. We hope you can come on next month when we have our health panel discussion. Gamma, do you have anything you want to say, or Harriet, anybody else have anything they would like to say?
Just that, when we get rid of the money factor in prison, that's going to help a lot. All of these private individuals that are making the money off of these prisons, and all of these things you hear about judges making deals, to put youth or people in certain facilities because they can get more money, and, just all the corruption around prisons. The people outside operating are as criminal as the criminals, and it's all about the Benjamins. It's all about the money. And, the only other thing is, anybody got anything to say about what just happened about, the
trial?
3 counts? I'm elated. And, a lot of people I've heard are saying, yeah, that's okay, but what about the next one? Well, we got to appreciate what just happened. We got to cling to that, and as a stepping stone into the next one and the next one, and hopefully that curve will go down like this, that there won't be any more. We have a younger generation that has kind of accepted everybody, that younger people often don't think of color, and they have friends of all hues, and people are intermarrying and whatever, and it's got to filter up to the older generations and whatever. So that we will have this one world, one community, one love, one e pluribus unum, you know?
Okay.
I just did a news panel a few minutes ago pertaining to the verdict. Let me say, I agree with you. Yes, we do need to celebrate this. This is a step in the right direction. However, after we get through celebrating tonight and we go to sleep tomorrow morning, we need to get up and go to work, because
Right.
we not
Amen.
change policing in America or in New York State in any way. And that's what we have to work on, is we have to be routine and consistent, persistent as well. And that's what's going to make the changes. You're right, young people don't necessarily see it the way we see it until they come smack dab in the middle and get hit in the face with racism. At that point, then they're baffled, they're angry, they're all of the above, and they don't know how to deal with that. So what we need to do is make sure that we prepare young people. I said to them this afternoon, and I'm going to do it again at 8 o'clock on Channel 12, until we get to the point that we no longer have to have the talk, and you know what I mean about the talk.
Yes.
We can no longer see that as needed or a priority, then we got work to do.
Absolutely.
Okay. Are there any other comments? Christine, do you have anything you would like to say?
I've been putting it in the chat. Thank you. This was a terrific presentation.
Yes, it was. Very.
Really enjoyed it.
Yes.
Sorry I was late, everybody, but I'm moving. That's why I had to have it on mute, because the noise and stuff behind me and find a blank wall. So I apologize for being a couple of minutes late.
Just
love
like
you.
Wilbert say, Maud Bruce cannot do this by herself.
Yes.
And tonight, Wilbert, you missed it. Well, all of a chairperson made 2 minutes remarks about what happened when we met with our representatives in Albany, with our assembly person, Brian Miller, and our New York State Senate, Mike Martucci. So they all gave reports. So you're right, Maud can't do this by herself. So I thank all of the chairperson for the Ellenville NAACP for being on tonight and really doing a great job. They did a great job. And I cannot express how good a job that presentation that Reverend Greenway brought to us. And William Dawson is the chairperson for the criminal justice and the environmental climate justice. So and every chairperson now, every committee now is meeting, have set up that date to meet before they come to the executive meeting. So they'll have a report to give and also to report to their membership. And I'm so sorry that our secretary couldn't be on today because of her church meeting. But we cannot forget about membership. Our secretary was going to report on membership. Membership is still the bloodline of this organization. So we still have to solicit for members, and our civic engagement person will be putting something together for us to do for getting out to vote and registration. But let me just announce to everybody that on May the 13th, the village of Ellenville and the town of Wawarsett will be having their caucus on May the 13th. And it will be done at the Bond Road Park at 6 p.m. And I'm looking for at Bond Road, at the park at 6 p.m. And I'm looking for everybody to be there.
The upper level.
Huh?
The upper level.
The upper level, yeah. So we expecting a whole you don't need to just go and vote for somebody and don't know what they have done this past 2 years. You need to challenge them. You need to ask them about when the last time you knocked on a door, you know? So we need to be there May the 13th for this caucus. And it began at 6 6 p.m. And as you look at your agenda, you'll see that our announcements, that our health chairs will be presenting a health panel discussion on Friday, April the 30th at 11 a.m. And they are working with our social media person, Ed Felton, to get the information out to the public and get all our publicity out. And on Meet the Candidate Night for the Board of Education, that meeting will be held on Thursday, May the 13th. And the reason we put it for May the 13th is because the board meeting is always the second Tuesday and the fourth Tuesday. So our Meet the Candidate Night for our Board of Education will be on Thursday, May the 13th at 6 p.m. And our social media person will be getting that information out. I was supposed to call today to talk to the superintendent secretary, but I forgot. So tomorrow I will be calling her, and she will be sending me all the candidates out, names out that will be running for the school board. So I hope you all keep all these announcements in mind. And you also, as I also tell you, gotta look at your emails. You gotta look at your emails every day, because I get emails every day and I forward them to our chairpersons and to some of our members. I believe it's the second Saturday in May. We will be having our second quarterly meeting, our New York State Conference second quarterly meeting. It will be held the second Saturday in May, and I expect everybody to please try to be on that meeting. It's on a Saturday, and I believe it started at 10 o'clock in the morning. And this is our President Hazel Dukes quarterly meeting for all the branches that's in New York State. Okay. Are there anything else to come before this meeting before we adjourn? If not, I move that the meeting be adjourned.
A second.
Been proper moved to second that the meeting be adjourned. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
So moved. So moved. Thank you, Reverend Greenaway.
Thank you.
So
Thank
much.
you.
You did a great job. You
Thank
did a
you.
great job.
Yeah.
And I thank our regional director for coming on this meeting. So everybody have a great night. Everybody have a great night.
Everybody,
Thank
be-
you.
Night.
Good night.
Okay.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
thank you,
Good
Reverend.
night, good night.
Good night. Oh, Jermaine, Jeremiah
Jeremiah.
Powell. Good. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm
That's
driving a
good.
little bit.
He's in the
I'm
car.
driving.
Oh, okay. Good.
Yeah,
to
but
see.
I'm here. Good to see y'all as well.
Okay.
Good to see you too. Okay. Good night,
right, thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
We thank our social media for all the hard work he do. We thank Ed for doing what he do for the branch.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you.
Appreciate
Glad to do it.
that.
Thank you.
Okay.